I'm sure everybody knows everyone on our panel, but let me just go to my left really quick. This is Matthew Weiner, the Mad Men creator and executive producer. John Hamm, who plays Don Draper. Christina Hendricks, who plays Joan Harris. John Slattery, who plays Roger Sterling. January Jones, who plays Betty Francis.
Stand up.
Vincent Kartheiser, who plays Pete Campbell. And Jared Harris, who plays Lane Price. But maybe if you could just talk generally about, how you begin work on a new season of Mad Men.
There's like a 3-week. First, there's a panic where I negotiate. It's like dying. I negotiate. It's anger, bargaining, depression, the whole thing, and I sort of bargain for a little bit and try and get a little bit more time. And I'm usually hiring writers during that period, but I basically spend about 3 weeks trying to figure out what I want to do and how I'm going to do it. And then the writer's room opens about 12 weeks before we start shooting. And in those, I talk straight for like 3 days, and anybody left standing stays on the staff. And then they give me their ideas for a couple of days, and then we start breaking story. And we try and get 6 or 7 episodes broken. I have the shape for the season. And somewhere in there, once I've opened the writer's room for a couple of weeks and I feel like I'm on my feet, I will have lunch with John, which is actually not a superstition. It's actually an important part of crafting the season. And we usually go to a restaurant, and neither of us remember anything that happened. I've walked home from this place, is all I'm going to say. And then all of a sudden, panic ensues. Scott Hornbacher, who's the producer, everybody starts sort of gearing up, and the sets get unpacked, and everything starts going about a month out. Scouting, directors, and then once the show starts going, every 8 days they need another script.
Right.
So hopefully I have 3 or 4 ready.
For the cast members, when you've come back from a production hiatus, does it take a few days to kind of settle into your characters? Do you forget how to play?
Personally, I always get a bit nervous each season. School year jitters or something. I kind of psych myself out that maybe I won't remember. Or just get a nervous excitement, but then after the first few days, you kind of sort of find your voice and find the characteristics and just fall back into it.
We have a table read before every episode, and so first of all, they've done fittings, and I see pictures, and I meet with costumes, stuff like that. But they all come to. Hopefully, we have a kickoff party, and then we have a table read. And I think, honestly, that maybe they're nervous or something. I don't know what it's like when you actually get behind the camera, but I usually find right at the table read all of my anxiety about what they're going to do and how they're going to be. It always seems to be like they're right there.
Right.
Yeah, it all comes with the script. For me, at least, I always get nervous, just like you do, for a couple weeks before we start a season. And then I read the script, and I'm like, oh, there's Pete. It's in the words. It's in the, it's in the story. It's nice to be part of a project where the characters really have a voice and have a point of view, and you can tell a difference between the different characters, the way that they're written, and it's all there for you if you just kind of connect the dots. Yeah.
I think I've worked every year the first day. It's usually somewhere in that first day. I think I was supposed to be drunk, and I don't know.
I think spoiler alert.
Chances
I
are.
played it that way. I think I was supposed to be, or I was
supposed to be drunk. Yeah. Sort of, it takes a little while to get back into it, and then he was directing, and he comes in and he goes, yeah, don't shake your head so much. And it's a list. What you're doing is, he gave me some really sort of tight little direction. I was like, okay, all right. Geez, this isn't going to be easy.
Did you know your trajectories you're going into a season, or are you learning it episode by episode as you are given these scripts?
It's episode by episode. I probably have a little more knowledge, forethought of what's going to happen, just because I have a little more access to Matt. But it's mostly episode to episode, and I think most of us want to learn it that way. Otherwise, the last thing I want to do is play the ending, and you don't want to, you want to experience it as it rolls out in the way that real life happens.
But my process is I have to tell the story, and I will tell it sometimes over and over and over again to sort of get it right. And John's joke is always like, Matt is the most secretive person in the world unless you ask him. And invariably, I will, get on a phone call with someone else, talk to Christina. I was like, we're talking about the haircut or what's her hair going to be like this year, and all of a sudden I'll just start telling her what's going to happen in the season. 3 hours later, we're talking the whole thing, and then the next day, I think this year, the next day she said, I know it sounds really good, but you didn't say anything about Joan. I was like, okay, so then he does this, and then I'm just like telling her the season.
Yeah, hurry up.
Okay, right. Is Joan in it?
Is that a legitimate concern that you might pick up a script and somehow Joan would not be on Mad Men?
Yes, it's terrifying. Of course. I think all of us have worked for quite a while before we got Mad Men, and we know how fleeting things can be, and we know how lucky we are to be on this project, and we just hold so tightly to it. So it is so dear to me that absolutely I would hate to think at any moment that it would not be there.
Do other cast members, do you not know whether to get attached to people and not learn their names until you're sure they're really going to stick around?
We're a pretty close-knit bunch, people are pretty readily accepted as well. I mean, it was a decision made very early on, I think, by all of us that it wasn't going to be this hierarchical system and where certain people were not to be talked to and certain people were to be excluded, and that's never been the case. And in fact, we have a very kind of communal atmosphere when we're all working. There's one place we all sort of hang out. Nobody scuttles off to their trailers. Everyone just kind of hangs out, and day players and guest stars come by and all that stuff as well. And it's welcoming, and we've all been guest stars. In my case, way more than I've been anything else. And it's always like the first day of school, and you always sit at the wrong lunch table, and you don't know anybody's name, and you just feel like a total outcast. And I remember thinking very, very early on that that's not how it was going to be. And that's been kind of the de facto operating principle for all of us. And it's made it for, we've met some really fun people and cool people and made really good friends, and that's been a good thing.
Anybody on our set who has to go to the bathroom can use John Slattery's trailer. That is the rule. Anytime.
Owner's box.
Everybody.
It was announced that your 7th season, which is 2 seasons from now, will be the final season of Mad Men. And I'm just wondering if, how you're all sort of, if you're starting to think about the finality of the show, if that is dawning on you in any way.
Yeah. I certainly can't speak for everybody, but it's great to have a job that you're going to have as an actor. That rarely, if ever, happens. And it's also great to know that you're telling a story that is not on a treadmill. That you're telling a story that has a beginning, middle, and an end. And there are certainly examples of, I think, shows that have gone on too long and overstayed their welcome. And that's not something that I find interesting. And I think we've established some incredible characters and established a beautiful world and a show that hopefully will have some lasting impact. So the idea that Matt and all of us will get a chance to end it on our terms is a pretty wonderful opportunity.
And it's not set in stone necessarily, but that's where we are. No, here, I would say this.
So you're saying if we all chipped in like $20?
No. I think that's what it can sustain, and we'll see, how freaked out I get when we get there. But no, I do not want to overstay our welcome. But I would like to say one thing, because it just happened. It happened the first season, where we're like, how long is it going to run? And then I have this quote thrown back in my face. And then now I'm being asked constantly how it's going to end, how's it going to end. Can I just say, just as a life philosophy, there's a whole season you haven't even seen yet. Let's enjoy what's going on right now and stop talking about like, oh my God, it's going to end,